While my fiancée was away on a work assignment, I was babysitting her specially abled son from her previous marriage. But then I found a note in my room, and it turned out she had left to be with her ex-husband, abandoning her son with me because he was a useless load. 2 years later, she returned demanding her son back, saying they were ready to be parents, but I told her she didn't have a son anymore. 2 years ago, my ex-fiancée, Sarah, 30 female, abandoned her specially abled son with me, 29 male, and eloped with her ex-boyfriend, Ethan, just a week after we got engaged. By then, we had been together for 3 years and had been living together for 6 months. She told me that she was leaving for a work assignment and asked me to babysit her son for just a couple of days. And I was fine with that because if we were going to get married, I would have to learn to be on my own with him anyway. He was not much trouble anyway, and I really liked him. So I agreed, but then 3 days passed and I didn't hear anything from her. In the beginning, I had assumed that she must have been busy with work, but then almost a week passed, and I still didn't hear from her, and that's when I started panicking. I tried to call her family, but nobody answered, neither did her friends. Everyone had just blocked me, and she had also deactivated all her social media accounts and blocked me everywhere. So I tried to contact her workplace, and they told me that she had quit her job a month ago, and they hadn't heard from her since then. That's when I started to think that she might not be coming back. But I still had her son with me, so I was holding out hope that she might find her way back and we might be able to fix everything. But then, a couple of days later, I turned the house upside down to look for anything she might have left, like a clue or something to show where she might be. And that's when I found a note under her side of the bed that I hadn't checked before. It had been stuck on the bottom of the mattress, so I hadn't been able to see it, but it was basically a letter to me telling me that our relationship had been a mistake and that she had been cheating on me with Ethan on and off for the past 3 years. The only reason she had even proposed was because she thought that this would finally get her to stop seeing Ethan, but he ended up proposing to her a couple of days later after he found out, and they decided to get away from this place and start again somewhere new and requested me not to try and find her. She said she was really sorry about whatever had happened, but she had to leave her son behind because he was a useless load, a total burden on them, and they couldn't deal with this anymore. So I could adopt him or I could do whatever I thought was appropriate, but they were done with this, and they were going to live the lives that they had wanted to all along. And while that letter shattered me, I didn't even have time to sit around and cry about it because, well, I had to deal with the situation at hand urgently. I contacted CPS about her son because, clearly, he had been abandoned, and I didn't know what else to do. I couldn't adopt him by myself. I was not ready to be a father on my own. If I had had Sarah by my side, it would have been a different story altogether, but without her, I wasn't ready to do this. And on top of that, the way I had been abandoned with him, that just made everything much worse. I loved the kid, but I knew I couldn't keep him with me given the circumstances I was in. After contacting CPS, his grandparents were forced to take him in because they could ignore me, but they couldn't ignore them. However, they also made it very clear that they were not ready to take up this responsibility. So, eventually, his maternal grandparents took him in, and he has been staying with them ever since. And since he was safe and sound afterward, a couple of attempts were made to track down the parents for a few months. But then, since this was really not that important of a case, they gave up. Clearly, Sarah and Ethan did not want to be found, and even if they were found, they would probably not want anything to do with their son. That had already been made clear by the note that they had left. About a year after they left, their parental rights were terminated by the court, and Ethan's parents were declared as legal guardians. I have still kept in touch with Ethan's parents, and I know that the child is in good hands, and that works for me. Naturally, even apart from that, it had been very difficult for me to deal with the situation emotionally after Sarah abandoned me, but Ethan's parents were not on board with that. But even then, they were not okay with him marrying Sarah since neither was she very serious about her education nor did she seem to have any interest in working in the future. Sarah herself had confided in me that it was all true. She was more interested in being a musician back then, but she wasn't that talented and was definitely not cut out for that rock star kind of lifestyle. They stayed together until their son turned 1, but then Ethan started getting very upset with her because she was just jumping from one job to another, and there was no stability in her life. And at the rate she was going, there was no way his parents were going to approve of her at any point. So he dumped her, and 2 years later, she met me. And we started dating, then we got engaged, and she pretty much forgot about Ethan, and they were only in touch with regards to their son. So I never had any reason to feel insecure. She never even spoke about him much, so I thought that she was over him completely, but I guess I was wrong, which is why all of that happened. And about their son's age, he's turning 8 this year. And when they abandoned him, he was 6 years old, obviously, but he has known me since he was 3, and we did have a soft corner for each other, which is why I have kept in touch with him because after having spent 3 years of knowing him, I couldn't just cut him out of my life completely for something that his parents had done. That's why I chose to stay in touch. Update 1. Hi. So it has been a couple of days since I posted, and my parents and I are still not speaking to each other. They believe that what I did was extremely cruel, and it was apparently uncalled for. But I think what they did to me and their son 2 years ago was a lot worse. So I think this is perfect for them. If my parents cannot bring themselves to see my point, if they still think that I'm wrong, then they can continue to think that way. Hardly matters to me. I'm gonna do what I want to. And either way, I've done it already, so it makes no difference. Anyway, Ethan's parents called me earlier today, and they told me that Ethan had reached out to them to ask for forgiveness and to ask if there was any way they could help track down their son. They put it in an email, and his parents have not responded to it yet. They don't intend on responding to it either. They're not entitled to any information on their son because now, legally, he has been adopted by Ethan's parents, and they are not bound to tell anyone how or where he is, least of all the people who had abandoned him. Honestly, I just can't even imagine the audacity it would require to show up after 2 years asking after their son and saying that they're ready to be parents now, so we should help them out. Ethan's parents and I remember very well how difficult it was for us to get that 6-year-old child to understand that his parents were probably not going to be coming back. They have no idea how emotionally draining it was for the three of us to try and console him when he would cry for his parents, and we had no idea how to explain anything to him. Of course, we thought that we would tell him when he was older, but given his condition, things are different with him. Things are more complicated, and never did they once look back to check on their own son. He was just 6 years old, for God's sake. I can't imagine how they brought themselves to just leave him and go away. And now all of a sudden, just because they feel conscientious and it's convenient for them, they are back and want their son back in their lives. Some guts it must require, I have to say that. Anyway, I'm just glad that Ethan's parents had never liked Sarah, and I think they had the right idea about her. The two of them really do deserve each other, and anybody who thinks that I should show them any sort of kindness, they are seriously fooling themselves. They should actually be glad that law enforcement did not pursue their case since they were not much of a priority. Because if they had been found, I would have personally sued them. Sadly, I did not get the chance to do that back then, but now I'm not going to leave any stone unturned to make sure that they pay for what they did. And I'm not even talking about paying financially. I'm talking about making them pay emotionally. Anyway, I highly doubt that any amount of money is going to make up for what they did, especially to me. At least their son is young, and with time, he will be able to move on and maybe forget about it. I'm not saying it's going to be easy for him, but at least he has his whole life ahead of him. But in my head, I had really planned the future with Sarah. And after her, I was not able to trust any girl at all. For the past year, I've been thinking about putting myself back out there, but I just can't bring myself to do it. I have even been out on a couple of dates, but it always fizzles out, and my parents know how difficult it has been for me to deal with all of this, to deal with her abandoning me like that. And even then, they think it was appropriate for them to say that I was being cruel to her. It just doesn't make any sense to me, and I'm really hurt and angry that they are choosing not to speak to me over something like this. I'm literally their only child, and I can't believe that this is how they're choosing to treat me. It's just hugely disappointing, but there's not much that I can do about it. And I'm definitely not going to reach out to them first. If they want to talk to me, they're gonna have to come to me. Until then, I'm just grateful that I have this platform to speak about my problems anonymously because so far, I haven't even been able to tell my friends about any of this. It just feels too personal. And on top of that, after the reaction I received from my parents, I don't know what to expect from anyone. I definitely don't need any extra drama right now, so I guess I'm just gonna keep it to myself for now. Update 2. So it has been a couple of days since my last update. And since Ethan's parents did not reply to his email, he decided to show up at their house uninvited. It was just him. Sarah did not accompany him. And after his visit, they called me up to inform me what had happened. Apparently, when Ethan showed up, they refused to let him in and said that they wanted nothing to do with him. And if he was here to ask about his son, then he was just going to be disappointed because he was not with them. Thankfully, at that point in time, he was taking a nap anyway, so there was no chance of him being found out in the house anyway. But Ethan started begging and crying and said that he knew his son had to be here and that we had all been lying to him, and he knew that he had messed up. But as a father, he had the right to see his son. He insisted that they had to let him in, and as his parents, they could not be that cruel. So they got into a fight, and Ethan started banging on the door when they shut it, but even then his son did not wake up. And I'm really thankful for it because I think it would have been very traumatizing for him. After a while, his parents said that they would call the cops, and that's when he finally left. They called me to warn me about it because now that he had somehow figured out that his son had to be with them, they would probably try to come to me as well and try to talk me into convincing them, but that's obviously not happening. I don't even think that I'm going to entertain their visits, and I'm definitely going to call the cops as soon as they decide to show up here the next time. In all honesty, I'm beginning to think that it's probably Sarah's parents who are responsible for this. They were not really involved in the whole adoption process, but I'm guessing they must have had some idea what was happening after CPS stopped contacting them, so it must have been their guess that Sarah and Ethan's son is now with his parents because he's definitely not with me. That's for sure. And given how Sarah's parents always adored her, I'm pretty sure that they had stayed in touch with her for the past 2 years but had refused to help find them. I think all these people are just failures at being parents or even just good people in general. They really do deserve each other, and I think they should stick to each other instead of bothering us. I don't even understand why they are being so stubborn about getting back to their son. They could just have another baby now, or maybe I'm guessing that must be part of the reason why. Maybe they don't feel guilty, and maybe they just want to get back into their son's life because there must be some problem with conceiving another baby. I have heard of stories like that, and I wouldn't be surprised if that is the case because judging by how selfish and heartless their behavior had been the first time around, I really don't think that I would put this kind of thing beyond them. Anyway, I'm not sure of it, so I can't say anything as to why they want to get back to their son after 2 years. But from the gut feeling that I've been getting for the past few days, I'm pretty sure that it's nothing to do with their conscience or whatever. In fact, I would probably go to the extent of saying that they don't even have a conscience because if they did, they wouldn't have done something so disgusting in the first place. Anyway, this whole situation has really started messing with me. And they hardly ever brought up anything to do with Sarah or Ethan to the extent where I almost forgot that they were his parents. They never spoke of him, but nowadays, I feel like I'm being suffocated because I started to think about them every day once again, and it feels like all the healing and all the self-care of the past 2 years has started being undone or something because I feel like I'm going back to that state of mind in the first few days after I was left behind by Sarah. And that just can't happen again because it was one of the darkest phases of my life, and I really don't want to go back there. At least back then, I had my parents to support me, but this time, they're not even speaking to me. Yeah. It's been a while, and they are still not speaking to me, and I don't know what it's going to take for them to acknowledge the fact that maybe they were not exactly right. Maybe Sarah and Ethan deserve the kind of treatment that they're receiving right now. I don't understand why they're being so stubborn about this whole thing. But even I have decided that enough time has passed, and now an apology is just not going to cut it. I don't know what exactly I want them to do, but just coming back to me and saying that they're sorry is not going to be enough. They're going to have to show me that they are sorry, and then I'm going to think about whether I want to forgive them or not. Because I think they have been very insensitive, and I don't need any more of that crap in my life at this point. Update 3. So just as Ethan's parents had predicted, 2 days after he showed up at their house, Sarah showed up at my place. I just don't understand why these people believe that I'm going to help them out or that Ethan's parents are going to help them out, especially after whatever they had put us through in the past 2 years. But for some reason, they believe that we owe it to them to be good to them even after they had been nothing but heartless and insensitive to all of us. Of course, just as I had expected, she showed up alone this time without Ethan, and I'm pretty sure that this is a strategy or something. They probably think that showing up with each other is going to make us even more upset. So they're trying to make it seem like she really cares about our feelings or something? I don't understand why she thinks we are such fools. But anyway, when she showed up, I instantly told her that she needed to leave, or else I would immediately call the cops. She started crying immediately, saying that she knew that she had messed up, but she had learned her lesson and said that karma had finally caught up with them. Apparently, a few months ago, Ethan had been diagnosed with testicular cancer, and they believe that this is their punishment for abandoning their son and treating us the way that they did. So they have come back now to make up for everything that they have done in the past, and they are hoping that we will forgive them so they can move on with their lives and take back their son. I don't know if the whole testicular cancer story is true or not, but it hardly made a difference to me. I told her through the door that this sob story of hers hardly made any difference to me. And if she thought that she could get me to take pity on her by saying all these things, then she was very wrong because I haven't forgotten how I felt back when she left me, and I am never going to forget that feeling for the rest of my life, thanks to the trust issues that she has given me. And neither do I feel the need to forgive her, nor do I feel the need to believe her and her stories. Even if the cancer story is true, I don't care about it because regardless of whether Ethan is suffering or not, their son is still not a toy that they can take back whenever they want to. They might have figured out where he is and with whom, but if she was here to convince me to talk to Ethan's parents and let them have him back, then she was seriously mistaken because I was not going to do anything of the sort, and my decision was final. I didn't want to hear any more. I told her that she had 30 seconds to get off my property. I already had the phone in my hand and was about to call the cops when she told me that she was finally leaving, but she needed me to know that she was not making up anything. She was telling me that whatever she had said so far, it was the truth, and she really was sorry about everything that I had to go through, that Ethan's parents had to go through. And she confirmed what I already knew, that her parents had told her that in all probability, it was probably Ethan's parents who had ended up adopting their son. And also, Ethan had already visited them, but had no luck in seeing their son even once. So they had believed that at least I would have some sympathy for them, knowing their condition, and arrange for at least one meeting between parents and son by speaking to Ethan's parents because it seems like they have taken a liking to me or something. Now, though, clearly, it was evident that I had no interest in helping them out, so she was going to leave because she had no interest in getting caught up with the cops, especially after whatever had happened in the past. But she wanted me to know that whatever she had told me about having testicular cancer, it was all true. And they had really believed that coming back here, they would be able to make amends with all of us, but, clearly, we are not open to it. She told me that Ethan hadn't brought up anything about it when he had tried to visit his parents because he did not want them to worry too much. But now she didn't think that they would worry anyway. So she told me to tell them about it, and that was the least that she could ask of me. This was one last favor that I could do for them, but if I didn't even want to do that, that was fine with her as well. And within the next week, they would be flying back home and would never bother us again for the rest of their lives. Then she left, and I didn't even have to call the cops. And I don't know what to do with myself either now, to be frank. I just felt like I had to get this all off my chest. And now I guess I'll have to make a decision about whether I should talk to Ethan's parents about what I was told or not. Eventually, I guess I'll have to do that anyway, so let's just see where this goes. Update 4. So it's the end of the week now. If Ethan and Laura had stuck to what they had said about leaving, then they would have probably already gone back home. After my last conversation with Laura, there were no further attempts to get in touch with us, and I did speak to Ethan's parents about whatever I was told. I told them all about the testicular cancer, and while they looked very shocked and unhappy about it, they said that they were not going to get back in touch with him, at least not right now, because their grandson needed them more than he did, and maybe in the future they would think about it. But for now, it was just too fresh and raw to think about it. Besides, there was no proof of it apart from Laura's word, and I hate to cheapen the experience of any cancer survivor, but I really don't think that my opinion of these two is high enough to say that they would be above using something like this to make me sympathetic towards them and get back in touch with them or something. So for now, we are going back to our normal lives with one exception. My parents are still not speaking to me, but I guess I'm gonna get used to it. Thankfully, I did speak about whatever I was going through to a bunch of my friends, and luckily, they were all on my side. All of them were very upset with my parents for reacting the way that they did and said that I was right to cut them off. So now I'm not gonna worry about anybody else. I'm just gonna focus on my own mental health and try to undo all the damage that has been done to it in the past couple of weeks.